The Noahide laws, 7 precepts for righteous living, hold a fascinating place in the history of law and religion. Rooted in the biblical story of Noah, these laws predate the 10 commandments given to Moses on Mount Sinai. They represent a universal moral code, applicable to all humanity, not just a chosen people. Jewish tradition teaches that adherence to these laws ensures a place in the world to come for all, regardless of their faith. These laws, prohibiting idolatry, blasphemy, murder, theft, sexual immorality, eating the limb of a living animal, and mandating the establishment of courts of justice, formed a foundation for ethical conduct. They resonated far beyond Judaism, influencing early Christian thought and Islamic legal traditions as well. The Noahide laws, in their simplicity and universality, represent a quest for order and justice in a world often characterized by chaos and injustice. The influence of the Noahide laws extended into the medieval period, where they became intertwined with Christian understandings of natural law. Theologians and jurists saw in these laws a reflection of God's will, accessible to human reason. This concept of natural law, rooted in the Noahide tradition, played a crucial role in shaping medieval political thought, particularly in the context of the escalating power struggle between the papacy and secular rulers. The stage was set for a dramatic confrontation, one that would have profound implications for the relationship between spiritual and temporal authority. In 1302, Pope Boniface VIII issued the papal bull Unam Sanctam, a document that reverberated throughout Christendom. This decree, penned in the midst of a bitter dispute with King Philip IV of France, forcefully articulated the papacy's claim to supreme authority in both spiritual and temporal matters. Unam Sanctam was no mere theological treatise, it was a declaration of war, a bold assertion of papal power in an age when monarchs increasingly challenged the Church's dominion. The bull's central message was clear and uncompromising. There is one holy, Catholic and apostolic church, outside of which there is no salvation. This church, Boniface argued, was founded by Jesus Christ himself and entrusted to the Apostle Peter and his successors, the popes. The Pope, as the vicar of Christ on earth, possessed ultimate authority over all Christian souls, including kings and emperors. Boniface's claim rested on a hierarchical vision of the universe. God was the supreme ruler, and the Pope, as his earthly representative, stood above all secular rulers. Temporal power, Boniface argued, was subordinate to spiritual power. Kings might rule their kingdoms, but they were ultimately answerable to the Pope in matters of faith and morals. This assertion of papal supremacy struck at the heart of the emerging nation-states. Kings, eager to consolidate their power, chafed under the Church's claims. Unam Sanctam became a lightning rod, igniting a firestorm of controversy that would engulf Christendom in the decades to come. The battle lines were drawn, and the ensuing clash between the papacy and the French monarchy would have far-reaching consequences. Pope Boniface VIII, born Benedetto Caetani into a powerful Roman family, was a man accustomed to wielding authority. Elected Pope in 1294, he inherited a papacy grappling with the rising power of secular rulers. Boniface, a skilled jurist and a staunch defender of papal prerogatives, was determined to assert the Church's dominance. He saw himself as the heir to a long line of popes who had claimed supremacy over the temporal realm. Gregory VII's clash with Emperor Henry IV over lay investiture, and Innocent III's excommunication of King John of England served as potent reminders of papal power. However, Boniface's papacy unfolded in a rapidly changing Europe. The rise of powerful monarchs like Philip IV of France challenged the papacy's traditional role. Philip, known as the Fair for his handsome features, was a shrewd and ruthless ruler determined to centralize power in his own hands. He viewed the Church's vast wealth and influence as a threat to his authority. The conflict between these two formidable figures was perhaps inevitable. Boniface, steeped in the traditions of papal supremacy, and Philip, the embodiment of a new breed of secular ruler, were on a collision course. Their clash would expose the fault lines in medieval Christendom and mark a turning point in the relationship between church and state. Section 4. Philip the Iron King. Philip IV, a monarch of considerable ambition and ruthlessness, ascended the French throne in 1285. Determined to forge a strong centralized state, he clashed with powerful nobles within his realm and the papacy beyond its borders. Philip, unlike his predecessors who often yielded to papal authority, viewed the church as a potential rival for power and resources. To finance his wars and consolidate his rule, Philip sought to tax the French clergy, a move that brought him into direct conflict with Boniface VIII. The Pope, citing traditional exemptions for the church, forbade such taxation without papal consent. The stage was set for a showdown, a clash between two wills, each accustomed to prevailing. Philip, a master of political maneuvering, rallied support among the French clergy and nobility. He convened the Estates General, a precursor to the French Parliament, and garnered support for his defiance of the Pope. The king also unleashed a propaganda campaign against Boniface, accusing him of heresy, simony, and even sorcery. The conflict escalated rapidly, with both sides exchanging increasingly bitter pronouncements. Boniface excommunicated Philip, declaring him deposed as king. Philip, in turn, sent agents to Italy to capture the Pope and bring him to France for trial. The clash between these two titans shook the foundations of medieval Christendom, leaving a legacy of mistrust and animosity between church and state. Section 5. A clash of swords and croziers. The conflict between Boniface VIII and Philip IV of France culminated in a shocking act of violence. In 1303, Philip dispatched Guillaume de Nogaret, his chief minister, to Italy with a small force to seize the Pope. Boniface, residing in the town of Anagni, his birthplace, was captured and held prisoner for 3 days. Although released by local forces loyal to the papacy, the elderly Boniface, humiliated and broken, died a month later. The outrage throughout Christendom was palpable. The image of a pope, the vicar of Christ, imprisoned by agents of a secular ruler, sent shockwaves through Europe. While Philip and his supporters celebrated the event as a victory over papal tyranny, many viewed it as a sacrilegious assault on the church itself. The aftermath of the outrage at Anagni, as it came to be known, proved to be a turning point in the history of the papacy. Boniface's successors, wary of Philip's power, sought refuge in Avignon, a city located outside French territory but within the sphere of French influence. This Babylonian captivity, as the Avignon papacy was derisively dubbed, lasted for nearly 70 years, a period of diminished papal prestige and increased French influence over church affairs. The clash between Boniface and Philip had exposed the vulnerability of the papacy to the machinations of powerful secular rulers. It also highlighted the growing tensions between the universalist claims of the Church and the emerging realities of national identity and state power. Section 6. Echoes of the Past. The echoes of the conflict between Boniface VIII and Philip IV reverberate through history, reminding us of the enduring tension between spiritual and temporal authority. The struggle for power between church and state, while particularly acute in the medieval period, continues to shape our world in myriad ways. The legacy of Unam Sanctam remains a subject of debate. Some view it as an overreach of papal power, a relic of a bygone era when the church held sway over the political landscape. Others see it as a principled defense of the spiritual realm against the encroachment of secularism. Regardless of one's perspective, the bull serves as a stark reminder of the profound influence religious institutions can wield in the public square. The outrage at Anagni, with its brutal imagery of violence against the papacy, underscores the fragility of institutions and the potential for power to corrupt even the most sacred of offices. It serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked ambition. Whether in the realm of religion or politics, the medieval struggle between popes and kings may seem distant, but its themes resonate in contemporary debates about religious freedom, the role of law in society, and the relationship between faith and reason. The questions raised by Boniface VIII and Philip IV continue to challenge us to find a balance between the demands of conscience and the requirements of citizenship in a pluralistic world.